This is going to be a video on realism, 19th century realism, and persisting well into the 20th century. Generally, we associate the term with the genre novel and also theatre, but appearing in the novel much earlier. Actually, the opening moment of realism could be Balzac's La Comedie Humaine, which was published in 1842. But the term realism, associated with the movement, happens when Courbet, the painter Courbet, was not allowed, the artist who painted the stonecutters, was not allowed to exhibit his paintings in the Paris exhibition. And so, alternatively, he arranged to have his paintings exhibited, and he entitled the exhibition Pavillon du Realism. That would have been in 1855. And then Gustave Flaubert's Madame Bovary was published in 1856. And although it is Balzac and Stendhal who are to be reckoned as the true fathers, the beginning moment of realism in the novel, we consider Madame Bovary also to be a quintessential realistic text. So for Balzac, the novelist was supposed to be a scientific, detached observer. And the emphasis was on plenitudinous detail, minute observation. That is why the 19th century novel, the realist novel, most of them are like about 800 pages, 700 pages. Now, just dwelling briefly on Flaubert's Madame Bovary, 1856, Flaubert wrote to a friend that I could write on poetic subjects. I have that bent within me. But life is not poetic. It's sordid, dull, repetitive. And that's what I would like to capture in my novel. So the heroine, Emma Bovary, who has very romantic expectations from life, ultimately commits suicide. Now, if I had to say a few more words about where we could sort of link realism, literary realism to kind of within, link it to a philosophical framework, then we could say that it comes out of the same empirical school that begins with Locke and continues through Berkeley and Hume. And one of the greatest Russian directors, Stanislavski, who worked with Chekhov's plays, also worked within the realist mode. So what would we consider the characteristics of realism? I would just like to emphasize two. One is verisimilitude, derived from French vraisemblable, which is like reality, like truth. So holding up the mirror to nature, which is what art has been doing from time immemorial. So Aristotle defines tragedy, the imitation of an action that is serious, complete, and of a certain magnitude. So imitation, my message, like life, not life, like life. So, but realism's verisimilitude is a different sort of thing altogether. That is minute attention to detail, which is why they are such voluminous texts. I think we can call Henry James realist also. I remember that in Portrait of a Lady, it begins with the description of a garden and the sunlight on the garden and the angle of sunlight. sunlight on the garden. So that is the kind of meticulous observation that we get within realism. And the second characteristic that I would pinpoint is the referentiality of language. That is, language is considered as a transparent medium. The way Asha Purna Devi writes, there is no doubt as to a particular word could mean something else. There is no vertiginous possibilities of meaning as we get in Joyce, and I'm going to come to an example from Joyce, like Henrik Auerbach. He, in his My Message, he considers all narrative works from Homer to Joyce to be within the genre novel. But I mean, that's a far stretch in certain ways, and I will state or posit why I think so. Anyway, so going back to the question of language, that there is no slip between signifier and signified. A word means that thing, whatever it represents. So signifier represents signified. So this, I would say, is more or less the characteristics or main salient points related to realism. And I would like to mention Bakhtin in this context. That Mikhail Bakhtin, in his dialogic imagination, doesn't think that the romance cannot be part of a novel. I mean, he pulls in all genres into the novel, I mean, as a dialogic space. So, I mean, realism rubs shoulders with romance in Bakhtin's idea of what a novel could do or should do. The example I wanted to give you from Joyce, I want to give you an example from Joyce regarding the referentiality of language, that why we cannot include Joyce within a realistic framework at all. So there's a particular word that I would like to bring to your attention, which I'm not sure I can even pronounce correctly, and it is one single word. It's a word that's half a sentence long or more than that. It reads somewhat like this: contrast, magnific, and jubantentiality. Now, how can that be a word? I mean, one would have to spend one's entire life truly trying to understand Ulysses. So in this video, I am going to not really dwell on realism in the novel, but realism in theatre or drama, which begins with Ibsen in the 1870s. And the two texts that I have chosen are A Doll's House, and Ibsen's A Doll's House, and Chekhov's The Cherry Orchard. So the second part of this video is going to focus on Ibsen's A Doll's House. I'm looking at drama specifically because that's what I've taught for the last 10 years, though not specifically this play. So Ibsen's dates are 1828 to 1906. And the first crop of realist plays written between the late 1870s to the 1880s is Ghosts, A Doll's House, and Pillars of the Community. Now, why is Ibsen so important? And since I was very young, I was deeply drawn to Ibsen. So why is Ibsen so important? I mean, we've seen the use of myth in Greek tragedy. It's intensely dramatic, intensely aesthetic, and intensely appealing. And we go back to them over and over again because myth has a very important clarifying role in our lives. It clarifies deep, subterranean issues that perhaps realism cannot. So we've tasted that, we've enjoyed that. Then we've had Shakespeare again as a great tragic dramatist. And the tussle, the conflict between desire and moral obligation. That's one of the central areas of Shakespearean tragedy. But Shakespeare borrowed from history, and none of his plots are really original, but Ibsen's plots are original. So what is distinctive about Ibsen is that he uses prose as the medium of drama, abjuring verse, and he focuses on contemporary reality, issues that were relevant to the times or resonant for the times. Theatre of the late 19th century came under fierce attack for its superficiality and false morality. Zola has a landmark essay entitled Naturalism in the Theatre, 1880, in which he posits that the theatre of the day, inclined towards melodrama and conventional morality, did not address the problems created by industrialization and urbanization. So in Ibsen, we get a dwelling on many themes that are related to urbanization and industrialization. He wishes to expose a society that is artificial, the kind of, the worst kind of Victorian society. And he posits in a way that truth and freedom are one and the same. Actually, the the statement is made by the younger critic George Brandeis, who had contact with Ibsen. The statement is truth and freedom are one and the same. And the implication was that the intellectuals should revolt. And truth and freedom are what A Doll's House is predicated upon. So I'm just going to give a very brief outline of the plot. The characters are Helmer, Dr. Rank, Nora, Mrs. Lind, and Croxad, a lawyer. The others are too minor, so I'm not mentioning them. So there is a deep secret at the heart of the play, which one would have no sense of as the play begins. Very delicately, subtly, in a very nuanced manner, developed dramatically. The dramatic progression is very believable, and I mean, the secret is almost as explosive as Oedipus's, the truth about Oedipus's parentage. So Ibsen did choose realism as his method. He does portray contemporary society, but it is my reading that he also had an understanding of the archetypal rhythms of life. So as the play begins, we have the banker Helmer, Nora's husband, calling her a squirrel, a songlark. So note that animal images are used for Nora, and she's perfectly happy with all that. And let's look a little bit at the interplay of gender in the play. I mean, how for women today, such statements and this kind of coyness would be absolutely unacceptable. But this is what Nora says to her husband. But aren't I nice too, to give in to my husband? Helmer replies, nice for giving in to your husband? You crazy little thing. Then in another place, I am man enough to take everything upon myself. And then we have a bit of the romanticism that one gets in Bernard Shaw's Arms and the Man. Because Shaw was very devoted to Ibsen, where Sergius and Raina practiced something called the higher love. And then Sergius also, regardless of the fact that he was facing a cannon, he charges right into the mouth of the cannon, and by some technical default the cannon didn't go off, so Sergius didn't die. So this whole kind of counterpointing of reality and romance is very interestingly done in Arms and the Man, and it's also a delightful comedy which we studied when we were undergrads. So I've wished that some impending danger may threaten you, so that I could risk life and limb and everything for your sake. And if you really have to do it, he has to do it. The play reaches a very critical point where Helmer had a chance to display or demonstrate all the generosity he had within him for his wife, which he miserably fails to do. So these kind of sentiments are really quite sickening. Anyway, now what leads to this deep, dark secret? Helmer had been ill, and Nora it was advised that he be taken to Italy, and the family didn't have the funds. And Nora has 3 children, little children by the way, and there's a nurse to look after them, etc. And there is another character called Krogstad, who's a very, very seminal character. He was also a lawyer. So Nora drums up the funds. Krogstad helps her, but she forges her father's signature on the bond, which is not known to Krogstad. He only finds out later that the date was later than when her father died. So he gets an opportunity to blackmail her, and and we will come to why he needs to blackmail her. So it's kind of left ambiguous. You know, she gives him money, she's paying. There are references to money being paid, but then we were left in the dark. We don't know why she's paying money to. To whom is she paying this money? Then what happens is Krogstad wanted a position in the bank to which Helmer belonged, and Helmer had been promoted. But the family was planning to give the position to Mrs. Lind, who was a very destitute kind of person, known to Nora in the past. And Krogstad wanted that position. And he threatens Nora and says that unless you can prevail upon your husband for me to have the job, I'm going to reveal your secret. So when she first hears that, and she first confronts this awful reality, she says, never see him again, never, 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 never see the children again, never, never. This reminds me of Lear. Once he finds out that Cordelia had been killed, and he says, thou'lt come back, never, 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 never. And when she fears that Helmer is going to find out because Krogstad wrote a letter, actually 2 letters, but initially Nora thinks it's just 1 letter. In order to placate him, fearing that the revelation is soon going to take place, she says, like a skylark, I would chirrup in all the rooms. I'll play elfin girl and dance for you in the moonlight. And then finally, Helmer reads Krogstad's letter. As I said, there were 2. So the first reveals Nora's secret, and the second takes away the threat to expose her. But the first letter is read first, and when he reads it, let's look at how Helmer reacts. Is it true what he writes here? Yeah. It can't be true. Nora, it is true. I loved you above all else in the world. You creature of ill fortune, what have you been up to? Do you know what there is in this letter? Yes, I do. Let me out. Let me go. Oh, how terribly I have been awakened all these 8 years. The woman who was my pleasure, my pride, a hypocrite, a liar, worse, a criminal. The depths of ugliness in all this. Shame, shame. No religion, no morals, no sense of duty. You have inherited all your father's frivolous attitudes. Oh, how I've been punished for turning a blind eye. No. So revelation, has happened, and realization is slowly taking place, and understanding, epiphany, not really epiphany, clarification. We as Leon Golden and O.B. Hardison Jr. Interpret catharsis as clarification. So clarification is taking place. Nora says, no, that's just it. You don't understand me, and I have never understood you either before tonight. You just thought that it was amusing to be in love with me. You and Daddy have wronged me greatly. He called me his doll, and he played with me just as I played with my dolls. The 2 of you are to blame for the fact that nothing has come of me. I have been living with a stranger. I don't even want to see the little ones. Then the second letter reveals that they are not going to be exposed, and then Helmer tries his best to placate her, to persuade her not to go, to remain, but Nora is adamant. And she says, I must stand totally alone if I am to get an understanding of myself and of everything outside. That's why I can't stay with you any longer. And in this wonderful dramatic closure, the sentence, the dramatist writes, so this is the moment of closure. The sound of the street door being slammed is heard. The final section of this video is going to focus on Chekhov's famous play, The Cherry Orchard, one of the most moving, one of the most poetically evocative, one of the most beautiful, where intense poetic feeling and drama come together. I would consider it one of the greatest plays of all time. The date of the play is 1904, and I will come to the characters shortly. A little bit about Chekhov. Chekhov's dates are 1860 to 1904. He was the son of a shopkeeper and the grandson of a serf. the emancipation of the serfs took place in 1860. I'm sorry, took place in 1861. In 1861. So he received a classical education, and he graduated school with very high marks in German and scripture. And then he went on to become a doctor. Now, the play The Cherry Orchard. This is 1904. The Russian Revolution takes place in 1917. We see the conflict of the classes here. The family, the play is focused on an aristocratic family. An aristocratic family that is very impractical, used to their wasteful ways, and who can't glimpse or understand practical solutions to their state of near destitution. So the characters, the central character is the older lady, the mother, the countess, the owner of the cherry orchard, Andreyevna. I have shortened the names because otherwise they are too long and difficult for me to pronounce. So Andreyevna, Anya and Varya, her two daughters, but Varya is an adopted child. Gaev, her brother, Lopakin, a merchant who was a former serf. Chofimov, a student, Pishchik, a landowner, Charlotte, a governess, Dunyasha, a maid, and Furs, a manservant, 87 years old, and one of the most, a minor character, but one of the most eloquent figures in the play, and who is given the last words. The final Furs says, he's left behind, the family leaves for Paris, and he says, life has gone by as if I hadn't lived. Nothing is left, nothing. A very valuable phrase that I read many years back, which is why I won't be able to locate it now, is that Chekhov wrote or said, life is all middle. So the Aristotelian beginning, middle, and end, the perfect tying up the plot and of the definite closure. And Chekhov is certainly the playwright of vertiginous possibilities of me. So he says, life is all middle. And that is true, but then how dramatic that middle can be without sacrificing drama. No long speeches, interminably long, where you need the force of genuine intellect to kind of understand what is being said. No, this is very accessible. So what is the story? What is the play about? The Cherry Orchard, that's the name of the play. So Andreyevna, the play begins with her coming back from Paris. She's almost destitute. She's led a lavish life. She gives gold coins to waiters and is used to a lavish life and can't relinquish it. And Lopakin, the former serf, who is now a merchant and doing very well, tells her that, madam, you can salvage your situation by selling the cherry orchard. There's a real perspectival, what should I say? I mean, real perspectival gap here. Andreyevna cannot understand that the cherry orchard that is so beautiful and so much a part of her growing up, and so intrinsic to her estate, has to be sold. So in a way, the play is also about beauty and utilitarianism, vis-a-vis utilitarianism. That how do you protect a thing of beauty? Can a thing of beauty be protected forever? The inevitability of change that time brings. So I will just briefly read out her words regarding the cherry orchard. Looking at the orchard through the window. Oh, my childhood, my innocence. I used to sleep in this nursery. I used to look at the orchard from here. Happiness woke up with me every morning. And the orchard was just like this. Nothing has changed. For her, nothing has changed. Laughs with joy. All white, oh my orchard. After the dark and overcast autumn and the cold winter, you're young again, full of happiness. The angels in heaven have not forsaken you. So it's, a scale of values, a scale of beliefs that, at least in the Russia of that time, or the Russia that arrived, had no meaning. And it would not have meaning for a utilitarian view of life. And she fails to fully understand that renewal in nature does not mean renewal for her. That there is a tragic gap or dissonance between the rhythms of nature and the rhythms of society. So, if only I could take this heavy stone from my breast and shoulders, if I could forget my past. So for her, the crucial problem in dealing with reality, the current moment, when the cherry orchard has to be sold, is that she can't forget the past. The past is a burden to her. But Lopakin says, you sell the cherry orchard, and then we'll have summer visitors, and they'll build dashas, I guess little houses, and then it will fetch you per visitor, summer visitor, it will fetch you so many 1,000 rubles, and you will be able to salvage your situation. And when she fails to understand initially, he says in exasperation, you don't understand, you are frivolous people. And that's true. I mean, let's be honest. Those who are very well off, those who don't have to really bother about the stinging realities, economic realities, they may prize, give value, or cling to objects or have values that don't jive well with an economy or an economic situation that is not a very not where people aren't really wealthy. So I mean, realism is also about historical time. So history is evoked in the play through an old table that's 100 years old, a little shrine, an old shrine, an old house where the cherry orchard begins. So it seems that even though Chekhov understood that changes were coming, he could not let go of his compassion and appreciation of beauty. And that also makes us think that beauty indeed is so fragile, so evanescent. So I am just going to focus on the last scene in the play and try to bring to your attention the intensely elegiac ethos, the elegiac, it's almost like a symphonic build-up of an elegy by reading out what the central characters say before they leave the house, which they know will be shut up now as they leave for Paris. So Andreyevna says, "Winter will pass, spring will come, and you won't be there anymore. They'll have you pulled down. Oh, my darling, my sweet, beautiful orchard, my life, my youth, my happiness, farewell, farewell. We'll go and there won't be a soul left here to look at these walls and these windows the last time. My mother used to love walking about in this room." Her daughter Anya says, "Farewell house, farewell old life." Piszczek, the landowner, says, "Everything on this earth comes to an end." Varya, the other daughter, says, "Yes, life in this house is over. There won't be anymore." So as I mentioned in the beginning, that there is no single action in Chekhov, no imitation of an action that is single, complete, and of just serious, complete, and of a certain magnitude. Actions are intimated. The only action that really comes to a closure, a point of closure, is that yes, the decision is taken to sell the orchard and Lopakin buys it in an auction at the very end. But there are other putative, there are other possibilities of resolution. That is, Varya and Lopakin, they have a relationship, or there is some sense of a relationship, but he never proposes to her. And then Fierce, the old manservant, 87 years old, he's left behind. We don't know what happens to him. And also the maid, Dunyasha, the governess, Charlotte, or the Russian version would not be Charlotte. We don't know what happens to them. And as I keep saying, vertiginous possibilities of meaning. And they are coming back. These people who are going to Paris are coming back in the spring. So there is, as I said, no closure, and and yet definitely dramatic in suggesting movement, in suggesting change. Andreyevna does change. Again, change of location from Russia to Paris. And just the sense that life also goes on, and that life is really all middle.